People love to live by the ocean. It's the best. Great views, playing on the beach, hot lifeguards. What else could you want? Well, the ocean can be a harsh mistress, and many cities throughout history have felt her wrath. Here are 9 sunken cities that aren't Atlantis. Number 9. In the year 0, Baiae was a jewel on the west coast of Italy. It neighbored Naples and sat tall on top of the bay. It was a fashionable resort town for the Roman elite, and several of Rome's greatest emperors loved by. Virgil, Cicero, and Claudius have been noted to enjoy this as a spot to cool off in the summer. Some have called it the Las Vegas of the Roman Empire. It is believed that at its height, the opulence of Baiae surpassed that of Pompeii and Capri. The super rich built luxurious villas in Baiae. They enjoyed profligate feasts, fancy heated baths, and decked out pools. But all of that luxury sunk like a turd down their fancy toilets when BRADYSEISMIC volcanic activity made the ground beneath their feet literally fall away and sent the city down under. To this day, many fine buildings can be explored beneath the surface of the water. Pop quiz, hotshot. When the Ice Age ended, the polar caps melted and the sea level rose. How many feet do you think the ocean rose during that time? See if you can guess the correct answer in the comments below, and I'll let you know later on in the video if you're right. Number 8. Yonaguni is an island in southern Japan. The city and temple complex is found some 200 feet below the ocean surface there. The city has no name that we know of, and it's older than any Japanese civilization. It was lost to history for thousands of years until it was discovered in 1995 by a sport diver. The current and underwater conditions are challenging in the spot that the Yonaguni underwater ruins were found. It's a difficult dive, but those who have made it have many pictures, footage, and proof that this amazing place existed. It can be dated up to 11,000 years ago. People were not supposed to be this advanced that long ago, let alone in a place like this, a blip between Japanese and Taiwanese waters. Of course, it was all above ground then. Conspiracies of cover-ups even exist around the Yonaguni discovery. We have found artifacts, but rumors of human remains, property, and tools have been circulating, in addition to the irrefutable facts that there is a city down there with a giant pyramidal structure. The staircases and architectural style remind of the Incans in Peru. The only fact we do know is that this is a mystery and a place of great significance where man, or the predecessors of the modern-day Japanese, once congregated. The thing is, it could be even older than that. The history books now need to be rewritten, and Yonaguni is not the only reason why, but it is a slice of a much larger and mysterious pie that has many unanswered questions. Before we move on, be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell button to get notified of new videos, and we always appreciate a big thumbs up. Number 7. In the 11th century, Dunwich was one of the largest towns in England. However, a succession of storms in the 13th and 14th centuries eroded the coastline. The town is now almost entirely underwater. Heavy storms hit the coast for decades. Locals desperately built defense ditches to try to hold back the waters and save the city from drowning. But they couldn't stop the harsh sea from setting up shop in town. And literally, there goes the neighborhood. Number 6. Olos, near the northern coast of Crete, was a port town of high significance back in the first 1,000 years before Christ. They had their own currency, and the people there lived relatively opulent lives because of the wealth that flowed through the port. It now sits beneath the shallow blue waters off the Cretan north shore. Olos was called the City of Fountains. According to legend, fear of pirates and thieves led the citizens to build 100 fountains and wells in the surrounding area. 99 of them contained only water, but one is said to contain the entire wealth of treasure from the old city. It has never been found. We know Olos is now a sunken city, but nobody knows why. Erosion, sea rise, volcanic eruptions are all theories, but only that. It's still possible to visit Olos, though you'll need a snorkel. An ongoing archaeological excavation is still on the site, but if you do go and discover the treasure from that 100th fountain, Would you say anything? Number 5. Pavlopetri was a harbor down on the Mediterranean in what is now modern-day Greece. It stood over 5,000 years ago, when the whole Western civilization was still young. The city grew for 2,000 years. It became one of the busiest and most well-known ports in the whole Mediterranean. Historians are certain that this was a cultural hub for trade and art. The fact that it is confirmed to date back to the Neolithic period around 3000 BC makes it all the more inspiring to know what was going on. But the great city just disappeared one day. How? It was an earthquake. A huge earthquake rattled the town violently, and by the end, the place got shoved under the sea. But still, divers can go see what remains. Intact streets, buildings, and temples can still be explored. This window to the past of ancient Greece is really something special. Number 4. Ravensur-Odd was an old pirate town in England's Middle Ages. It was originally one of the most strategic landing zones for Vikings when Yorkshire was still called Jorvik. The inhabitants, from all reports, were mostly thieves, vagabonds, and pirates. They did have a legitimate government with courts, prisons, and for the worst boys and girls, gallows. And that was life on Ravensur-Odd until the sea eventually began to overwhelm the town. On each high tide, the erosion took in more and more of the city. Bodies from the graveyard started washing out to sea. When the people of Ravensur-Odd finally began to run, a lot of churches were looted on their way out. An event known as the Great Drowning came January 1362. Ferocious storm winds and unusually high tides submerged Ravensur-Odd by winter's end. Number 3. Port Royal, Jamaica was once said to be the wickedest city on earth. Captain Henry Morgan was the OG Jack Sparrow who ruled it like a buccaneering King Joffrey. He was made the lieutenant governor in the 1670s. The city was a world-famous hub for pirates and all the debauchery that seems to follow them around. It seems that tons of these sunken cities were hubs for piracy. It's no instant karma fail, but there does seem to be a lot of pirates on the ocean floor. People didn't seem too fond of the port when it was still standing, and some were glad to see it gone when a massive earthquake leveled Port Royal on June 7th in 1692. Right after, a giant tsunami swept in and swept out, taking all of the earthquake's destruction and whatever else was left in the city. When a 33-acre chunk of Port Royal fell into the ocean, 2,000 people died. One survivor wrote of the moments during the tsunami, "Arr, your heart would abhor to hear of the depredations, robberies, and violence." Solid pirate voice. Whatever went down at Port Royal is tragic, and it sucks they had to go out like that, in chaos. But the word chaos kind of sums up the city's vibe when it still existed. Present-day students and pros alike come to the site where old Port Royal stood. Number 2. Xichang in the Zhejiang province of China is a beautiful underwater ancient spectacle that's name means Lion City, and it's beneath the Lion Mountains from the Han Dynasty circa 200 BE. With lion statues everywhere, it's clear this area had a thing for Simba. But sadly, there's no mystery why this beautiful underwater antiquity ceased to exist. It was purposefully flooded to create a hydroelectric dam in 1959. Classic China. It's answer time. According to NASA, when the massive ice sheets covering North America during the Ice Age melted, the liquefied ice ran into the ocean and raised the sea level by 393 feet. That's enough water to submerge the entire Statue of Liberty. Number 1. A legend that Indians call the Golden City used to be a thriving place of beauty that belonged to Krishna, a Hindu god. It was only a legend for thousands of years until it was discovered in the Gulf of Cambay, 120 feet deep. This was accomplished with equipment like sonar scanning tools and a lucky guess. They probed an area that used to be above land before the last ice age and made the discovery of a lifetime. It's a 5-mile long, 2-mile wide village with huge and beautiful sculptures, walls, and buildings. The craziest part is that it's estimated to be about 10,000 years old. That's about twice as old as the places we used to think of as the beginning of modern civilization. Author Graham Hancock said, "Nothing else on the scale of the underwater cities of Campeche is known." It's such a big find that we must start from scratch to reconfigure where we believe it is that we come from and how we got to where we are today.